Okay, so we're going to get started. The talk tonight is titled Intention and Action. And I wasn't sure that I was going to talk about this. This is related to the challenge of the week. I didn't know I was going to talk about it until I got a really nice phone call from one of my students. And maybe she'll watch this at some point and remember this. But I've been getting a few phone calls from people that, they call and talk to Catherine and they're like, I need to talk to Sifu. And sometimes I dread those because some of them lately have been like, Sifu, I lost my job, and I'm moving to Alaska and I can't come to class anymore. I actually got an email recently from a student who's been coming for forever. He is awesome, one of my favorite students in class, and he's moving too far away to come to class. I'm going to try to convince him to keep doing what he can on Zoom, but it happens. And so I got this call. Miss Macy's like, you need to call her back, and I was kind of dreading it at first, like, oh, what's this going to be? She's been coming for years, and I really love having her in class. And so I call her, and she answers the phone, and she starts telling me about her experience with the challenge of the week. So the challenge of the week is to every night set an intention before you go to bed, and then that's it. That's the whole challenge. You could do it in 5 seconds. The kind of implication there would be the next day you try to actually do the thing that you wrote down. What was your intention? And as long as you choose your intention, you literally don't even have to write it down to be completing the challenge. But I'll get into that idea later on. She said to me that, I'll be her now. Sifu, I love Tai Chi. I've been coming for a while, and I practice a decent amount. I could probably practice more Tai Chi, but I always practice the spiritual part. And I always do the challenges and the questions. I always kind of take that stuff seriously. And she said, this one in particular has been really great for me because my husband is handicapped and has a lot of difficulties. And sometimes I honestly just find it very difficult to be patient and kind. And she said, I'm always trying to be, or wishing that I were more patient and kind, that I was a patient and kind person. And she said, when I do this, setting the intention for the day, and when I wake up and it's the first thing that I come across, it's really working, because instead of having to be a patient and kind person, like permanently every day for the rest of my life, I can do it for this day. And of course, it's overwhelming to think of some massive change in our character and our personality and just like, poof, that's it. It's going to be like that for the rest of my life? Probably not. It's very difficult to do that, and overwhelming to the point where you just give up before you even start. But one day is pretty doable. And she said, I'm finding that I am really able to do it. I set my intention for the day to be patient and kind, and then for that day, I'm able to do it. And it's, changing her relationship with her husband. It's changing her relationship with herself. And I thought that it was very nice of her to call and tell me that, and I started to tear up a little bit, because this is really what I want for you guys as students. I would love it for you to be able to defend yourself really well, and that is certainly part of our Kung Fu class. I would love for you to get great at Tai Chi, and to look really good and smooth and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it is how our practice impacts our everyday life and impacts us on a deep level and transforms us as a human being. And none of us, myself and really none of the other students in class, I'm going to not have to go very far out on a limb here to say, are going to become world champion, like MMA fighters going in and beating, John Jones at at 225. Like, most of us couldn't even put on the weight to compete in a weight class. It is not about that. It is really about, and this is really cheesy saying that I almost hate because it's so cliche in the martial arts world, but it's like, I don't train world champions, I train people who are champions of their own world. And yeah, I mean, as kind of silly and cheesy and cliche as that is exactly it. Would it be nice to have a really famous student who beats everybody up? Maybe. They might be kind of a jerk, but to have students, or honestly even just one student, who is really transformed by what we do in a way that makes life a little bit more rich and worth living is really what it's all about. And you can take this idea of setting an intention and say to yourself, like, okay, I can do that, and you might have read it somewhere else. In fact, a lot of the stuff that you hear me say that is, on the spiritual side or the, personal development side or whatever, you might have heard other places. And maybe you've even tried some of it before, but I'm going to go, again, not very far out on a limb and suggest that oftentimes what happens is we hear these ideas and then we say, that's a nice idea. I should really do that. And that is where it stops. That is a wall that we build between us and the actual, trying and doing of the thing. And this is part of what I want to talk about tonight. The setting of an intention is important and powerful only if it goes somewhere and doesn't just live in your head and just be a nice idea. Just like all of the most incredible wisdom in the world is pointless if you just hear it and say, yeah, that's nice, I like that, and then don't do anything with it. Like, what are any of us doing here if we're not actually taking the ideas and the exercises and actually putting it into action? So what I said earlier on about this idea of intention is like this. You set the intention, and then you've got to translate that into action. And this is the hardest part for most people, because we all know, for example, we all know how to lose weight and get in better shape. You eat the right food and you work out. And you could, do more details and more science and say, well, I'm going to count my calories and make sure that I'm expending more energy and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you just do the basic stuff, you eat right and you work out hard. And if you've been doing that and you're not quite at the point where you want to be, then you got to eat more right and work out harder. But the place where people get stopped is not like, I'm working out decently hard and I'm eating decently right. It's like they don't even try that. They know, what it is that you need to do, but that is where you hit that wall. You hear it, you hear some new science that came out that confirms what you already know about diet or exercise, and you say, yeah, that's right. And then you don't do anything with it. These nice ideas cannot just remain intentions, because intentions are useless without the action. So what I said earlier on, and I can't remember if this was earlier today or earlier this week, but one of the simplest things to do with this is, in order to take the first step with your intention, let's say that your intention is to be stronger. Your intention is to get better cardio, or just to be more physically powerful. And even if you're just thinking about doing it for one day, if you have it in your mind, let's say that it's nighttime, I'm laying in bed and I go, ooh, Sifu said that I was supposed to set an intention. Oh, what's it going to be? Okay, tomorrow I'm going to be more powerful. I kind of felt like weak today, so tomorrow I'm going to be powerful. Okay, go to bed. The next day you wake up, it's probably gone. You forgot about it completely. So one of the things that I think is very important here is to write it down. And maybe you've got a journal, like what Julie was talking about. Maybe you've got just a sticky note. You write down power, be powerful. You stick it on your forehead so when you wake up, you see it in the mirror. Put it somewhere where you're going to see it, and the first thing you should do is look at it. Now, the act of writing it down has taken it from your mind and put it in the real world. You might tell somebody about it. That act has taken it out of your mind and put it in the real world. And it in many cases is as easy as that, or as simple as that, to transform intention or ideas or knowledge into action. Take it out of your mind and put it in the real world, just literally writing it down. So when you take that first step, even if it's just writing it down or telling somebody, that first step is energy. And I mean, you're literally putting energy into it, writing it down or telling somebody, but it's momentum. So you've decided that you're going to do something, and then you did the first thing about it. What was the first thing you did? You wrote it down so that you would remember to do it, right? Maybe you put it in your calendar, in your phone, so that it buzzes and it gives you a reminder, whatever. But that energy is momentum. Now it's like you've taken the first step. So I think of it like this. I'm standing here, and over there is this thing that my intention is pointing to. And I can stand here for a really long time and think really hard about, how I'm going to get over there and all of the nitty-gritty details of the path. I see that mountain peak in the distance, and I see, well, there's a valley in the way, and there are all these rocks I got to watch out for and all that stuff. But if you're just standing there, you're never ever going to make it to the top of the mountain. You will stay right where you are, and you will die there. So what you do is you look at that thing, you say, that's where I'm going, that's my intention, and then you go like this. You take the first step. That step is momentum. That step is taking you towards your goal, towards your intention. And then it becomes real. It becomes concrete. And then when you have that momentum, now it actually takes more to stop you than it does to keep you going. Now, you will very often encounter more that will stop you very easily, right? You're walking down the path, and then you come across a river, and most people will come to the river and say, well, this was nice, but this is as far as I go. And you've done something, right? You have taken intention and turned it into action. But you've heard me talk all about goal setting and bite-sized chunks and all this stuff. So I completely stand by all of that. But really, you want to be able to keep pushing past it. You recognize that something comes up, this obstacle. If it is powerful enough, it will take away your momentum, and maybe it will even push you backwards. So then you get there, you realize, oops, I'm sliding back. My momentum's going the wrong way. And so then you just take one more step in the right direction. One step in the right direction is momentum. Now, again, it's harder to stop you than it is to just keep going. So if we think of intention as, or we're getting better at linking intention with action, even if it's just writing it down or even if it's just taking that first step, then we've really got something. So I talk about this, the space between knowledge or understanding or intention and action is, for some people, for many of us, for most of us, if we're not practicing it, is an impossibly deep and wide chasm. You're standing here, at intention and over there is action, and it seems so far away. It's impossibly far away. And it is also exactly one step away. And it's kind of like that scene in what I believe is the best Indiana Jones movies, but not everybody agrees with me. The last one, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It's so good. And that whole scene, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, I don't know what's wrong with you, but he's in that like temple of the Holy Grail, and he gets past the first trap, and then the second trap is the leap of faith, right? And he's actually standing at that impossible to traverse chasm, and he looks down and he's like, what am I supposed to do right now? And then he remembers this is the leap of faith. And what does Indiana Jones do to breach that impossibly deep and wide chasm? He just goes like this, and he just takes one step. And then he realizes, wait a minute, there's this thing underneath me, and I can actually just keep going. And then he makes it all the way across. Well, most of us look at it and we say, I can't get past this chasm. There's no way to traverse this. And it's simply because we don't actually believe that it is possible. It is our own doubt, our own lack of belief in ourselves, that lack of faith that stops us from taking the first step and realizing that, wait a minute, I took the first step and I'm still here. I can actually just keep going. I won't tell you what happens at the very end, but there's more melting Nazis. It's great. I forget what else I was going to say about this. It was really good. I'll just keep riffing on this. Kaya was asking me about this idea of the like never-ending intention, and she was talking to me about writing, and you can look at intention in this way, where it's like I have an intention, and unlike a goal, it doesn't necessarily have a specific end, right? It doesn't have to be like an actual specific point up on that mountain. It's more just like a direction that I'm going. And that can be great. Intention it really should be. When we talk about intention, it is not exactly the same as a goal. An intention is more like a way of being, or like a place that you stand. And when you are standing in this place of intention, then you get to choose, okay, this is the action that I'm going to take. And you have this direction that you're going in, and maybe you'll change directions specific with the details of what you're doing, but the intention is still there, it's still alive. So I've heard Quentin Tarantino talk about this, writing. He's very, very prolific and talented, and he just sets an amount of time, and he just sits down. It's like every day I do it. This is what I'm doing. I'm writing, and then I'm done. Right? So that is kind of a specific way that it looks, but if you have an intention, it really should be like you hit your goal, you finish your first screenplay, you finish your first book of poetry, you hit that, but that doesn't kill my intention of writing and creating more beautiful art. It just puts a button on that goal, and you still have momentum. You finish that thing and you're like, oh, this was really great. I kind of did something. I'm going to keep going. So intention should allow us to spontaneously create and keep acting. The idea is, if an intention is like a way of being, then I wake up and I say, today my intention is to be powerful. That doesn't tell me what I have to do. I might have ideas, but what I end up doing has got to come from that intention. And it might not be the right thing, or like the perfect thing, or the ideal thing, that thing that you had in mind as a goal. But if you are acting from your intention, and your intention is usually aligned with your higher self, then you're going to be really doing something. And life is going to feel very different from, I woke up and I just got out of bed and I decided, well, here we are. I'm alive for one more day. I wonder what's going to happen. You want to have it more like, here we go. I'm alive for one more day. I wonder what's going to happen. And if you have that, if you have an intention, you've got a direction to go. But what exactly happens, the specifics of it, are going to be up to you and also up to the universe. And it allows us to be spontaneous. It allows us to be pliable and to, in that moment, respond well to whatever the situation calls for. Right? This not to. I feel like I'm on a really positive tack here, so I don't want to get dragged down too much into the events of the day. But things are terrible, and we need to do something about it. And I completely believe that we have the ability, as human beings, as individuals, as a society, as a country, and as a race, we have the ability to recognize where we are here now, and not be attached to it, and still be able to move forward powerfully. And this is kind of like relating to the question of the week. The question of the week is, in your lifetime, what have you done that hurt someone, and what did you do about it? If we don't recognize where we have come from and what the past is for ourselves and for the larger group, if we ignore that, we are going to fall into the same traps. And if you read the news and you've read history, you might see us falling into some pretty scarily, eerily similar habits, patterns to where human beings have gone in the past. And it seems like we haven't really done a great job of learning from them. But what we can do is, recognize where we are, and do not draw the false equivalency or live in this fallacy of my past equals my future, or my present equals my future. The future is exactly what we make it. And the past, and recognizing the past, is a useful tool. Knowing where we stand now is important. We should know that, and we should accept that. But acceptance is not the same as complacency. So in our lives, we want to practice the same understanding. We may have hurt people. We may have made mistakes. Look, you've hurt someone, and you've made terrible mistakes. It is who you are if you're a human being. You're not enlightened yet, so you're still doing that crap. But you can know what you have done, you can accept it, and then you can have the intention of moving on from it, and without necessarily knowing what the exact right action is. You stand in that intention, you point yourself in a direction, and you go and you take the first step. And the first step is momentum, and you might take the first step in the wrong direction and go, whoa, I got to turn and go this way, but you still have momentum, and you can turn it. I've talked about the J curve in the past. This is something that they use, I think popularly in AA, where it's like you hit rock bottom, and then instead of just digging in and staying there, there's the J curve. It takes you down, and you go up, and you end up in a higher place, better off than you were before. That is momentum. And even a step in the wrong direction is momentum if we feel it and if we are able to use it. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. Just take a step. And this whole talk is really about that, because intentions are, let's be honest, really easy. And we all have, good intentions. The thing that separates, I don't want to say that. I was going to say the thing that separates us, like as martial artists, from normal people, I guess I'll say it, but then, put it in a nicer way in your head. The thing that makes us martial artists is that we don't just stop at the intention. we are able to connect it to action. And this is not necessarily going to come easily or naturally. This is something that we have to work at. So do that. This week, you got a couple days left. Set an intention every night, wake up, and you've written it down already, so you've got some momentum. You look at it and you say, yeah, okay, I did that first step of writing it down, so what's next? And then just get to it. In our meditation right now, the intention is whatever you choose to make it. And you might sit down with the intention of having the most perfect meditation ever. You might sit down and say, this is it. This is going to be the time that I hit enlightenment. Great. You might sit with the intention of, I am really going to be completely focused on my breath right from the very beginning. That first breath and then every breath going on, that's my intention. Great. But when you get thrown off that track, your intention, if you're really in it and you are really standing in that state of mind, then you should be able to get right back on track. So sit comfortably and powerfully with intention.